the understanding of value itself in terms of the ancient philosophical triad of the good, the true, and the beautiful, right? Another way of thinking about it is morality, rationality, and aesthetics. And these things, in a sense, it's a philosophical lens, or even a kind of a technology, to recognize the term value is kind of stuffy, right? People don't resonate with it. It sounds kind of abstract, and of course it is. And so are the good, the true, and the beautiful, abstract philosophical concepts. But these concepts they properly understood, they deliver a kind of value energy, right? So just to kind of talk at the top level, what's it going to take to bring about the Second Enlightenment? Well, if we look at these previous periods of cultural fluorescence, we can see that it was new truth, new goodness, and new beauty, right? New forms of art that expressed the new perspective, new forms of truth that gave people the next perspective, and new forms of this definition of the good life, right? And the good is more than just the good life. But when we understand that what is the good, you can't really ask that without also recognizing that the true and the beautiful are part of it. That's why I like the idea of it as energy. Because like electricity, it moves between poles. It's not a thing. It's not stuff. It's this form of power, this capacity to do work in consciousness and culture that arises. Now, while we know perhaps more clearly than ever before that what we need is some new truth, some better philosophy, and then that's in the corner where I'm working. We need a more inclusive vision, and there are many many people who are putting forth a new vision. But at least as I understand that subset of the culture where people are trying to envision a better way, most of those visions are constrained within the progressive postmodern worldview. So they attempt to transcend without including, right? They don't have access to the new truth that says the degree of our transcendence is ultimately determined by the scope of our inclusion. So in other words, in order to grow up to the next step, we have to reach down and include what's being left behind by progressive postmodernism. And that includes the values of modernity, and it's the legitimacy of what it delivers, and why we can't just take that for granted. And same with traditionalism, that it's not just a matter of saying, religion has this social function of solidarity, we should try to duplicate its rituals while not taking it seriously. No, that religions are getting at something that's deeply true. And until we can honor that, we won't be able to adequately include their civilizing gifts to the larger structure of emergence. But it's important to say that there's to allude back to this idea that we can't just socially engineer our way or market our way, is that there's a degree of grace involved. Emergence is partially unpredictable. So while we can see and say that this synthesis is what our opportunity is to go postmodern, we also recognize that when the time is right for that is not entirely within our control. That there are larger forces that we still don't understand that are driving these, what Stephen Jay Gould called a punctuated equilibrium, right? So we've been in, progressive postmodernism is the last historically significant major worldview that evolved 60 or so years ago in terms of it became democratized and a large-scale structure. Perhaps it'll be decades before this postmodern worldview will gain traction in history. I can't tell or predict, and I certainly don't think I can, make that happen on my own. But I do know that we need it's through the good, the true, and the beautiful that these new value systems take root and emerge and flower. And so working on the elements, the new truth, the new goodness, and the new beauty that is being made possible by this realization of greater inclusivity, this realization that we can't vilify traditionalism, we can't vilify modernity, we can recognize that it has positives and negatives, and we can do our best to discard or grow out of the negatives. But part of that very task of separating the good from the bad in these cultural structures is appreciating how the good is something that we're using and that we need. And it's part of the structure of our own consciousness. So affirming the enduring values that are necessary for the structure, the values that support the higher levels, that's a big realization, a big kind of new truth that is emerging with this philosophy of evolution that's showing us the interior universe like never before. So, there's a lot more to say about that, but that's a mouthful.
Yeah.